Good morning, Zio here, and I'm doing this before coffee. This might get bad. It's brewing. But yeah, this may not go over too well. Anyway, if you came here, hold up before you hit that dislike button, and don't expect me to go Denuvo bad. Don't buy. I know the thumbnail may give that presence or whatnot, but it is something to consider if you want to buy Persona 4 Golden on PC. So let's get into it, shall we? And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do so now. I'm building an army for world domination, and I need you to be a part of it. But hey, if you didn't know, Persona 4 Golden has been launched on Steam for the PC. And me, like thousands of other people, were like, yes! And then the fellas over at the Crowcast sent me a thing going, hey, Persona 4 has Golden has Denuvo installed. You might want to look into that. And you're right, I do want to look into it. So, if you hadn't gone to check them out, you should go check out the Crowcast somewhere too. They're available on BitChute and YouTube. But anyway, so I decided to start looking into it. This was back on Sunday when they mentioned it, and I've waited a few days because I wanted to see how things developed. And, some things have developed. First and foremost, it's on Steam here, right? You can see it right here, $19.99. It's up for grabs if you want to go get it. Put it to a wish list, whatever, something like that. Digital Deluxe Edition too. But yeah, it does have Denuvo, DRM, anti-tamper, I believe, is specifically what it has, is the anti-tamper. And, if you're like me, you hear the word Denuvo and we essentially have an allergic reaction to it, right? Because we've not had, good experiences with Denuvo software in the past. And when it comes to DRM, and specifically, it's kind of hit or miss. It really depends on the game and whether and how it's been implemented, right? How the developers and the company have gone about putting these things into the game, on whether or not, it's actually going to, impact the gameplay or not. And so I went searching, and for the most part, it's essentially people on forums from Reddit to the Steam pages here, arguing back and forth of, hey, it's got Denuvo on it. We might want to hold off. There could be issues with that. Hey, Atlas, can you please remove Denuvo and all this other stuff? And then you've got the other part of that fan base essentially saying, STFU, it's Persona 4 Golden, just get it and be happy. That sort of thing. And I'll highlight one of those particular comments because there's several of them throughout the thing, but there is some things I do want to highlight from that particular comment. Not trying to point anybody out or anything, I just want to speak on it because it kind of puts all the other littler comments sort of together in one big longer thing that I do want to check out for a second and just sort of talk on that. But DRM, it's hit or miss, right? There are games out there where DRM is necessary. Some form of DRM, could be necessary to facilitate that sort of thing. Like, for instance, a game that needs it. My brains are not working. Anyway, I'm sure I had examples. But anyway, anything that needs a constant connection to the internet because it is a multiplayer game or whatnot, and it wants to validate that you've got an actual copy of the game. And essentially what it is it's designed to prevent you from essentially selling the high seas and getting these games, right? You've got to pay for it, which, there are arguments to and for against that. Me personally, I hate DRM. I just think it's silly for the most part, especially if it's not well implemented, when it can, quite frankly, hurt the game in some way, shape, or form, which for the most part, in my experience and with others, Denuvo does just that. As you can take a game and it's working flawlessly, but then you add, say, Denuvo to it, and then suddenly there's changes, it slows down here and there. And throughout these threads, especially I think I found it on the Steam one where somebody linked that study or whatever that somebody did with and without Denuvo that I think I talked about during the Doom Eternal thing, which is probably the most recent version of the whole Denuvo debate that we've heard or lately. Where they've taken this thing and they've played it with Denuvo and without Denuvo, and they claim that Denuvo actually increased frame rates and all this other stuff, yet it seems to be outside of that study. In practice with other players, they find a decrease in that, and it might be not something that normal people might catch right off. For example, the Doom Eternal thing. Some players may be able to see the degradation of the speed of the frame rate and other things while playing the game, while maybe somebody else who's not really in tune to that sort of thing or whatnot may not technically catch it because it's a few seconds here and there or something like that, or it's a quick lag and goes back, and they just don't really quite understand what's going on with that. And I guess the best comparison to that is probably, say, looking at 4K versus like standard HD, like a 1080p or something like that, versus that. The reason I say that is, for me, when I look at a 4K, I don't really see anything majorly different between what I'm currently using, which isn't 4K, but it's the highest definition at that point, right? But I have several friends who do have 4K setups. They've got 4K TVs, they're using the 4K on their Xbox and all this other stuff, and then when they look at my system, they notice a difference. And the same thing happened to me when we went from like 720 to 1080 back in the day, where I would look at the two and not really see a noticeable difference. But then once I started using 1080 and then saw something playing in 720, I just sort of looked at it and was like, ooh, that's awful. It's sort of a mind thing at that point, I guess is the best way to put it, but I'm not a psychologist, so but yeah, Denuvo has been shown time and time again to slow down games, even if it's just for fractions of seconds or whatnot, but it does degrade the actual experience of the game, causes lagging, causes hitching, among other things, when not implemented right. I want to talk about Denuvo, of course, and sort of more of an objective look throughout this. But I did, right before I did record, because at the time I hadn't found any issues that has been involved with Denuvo or even blamed on Denuvo at that point in time. At the time when I first was looking up all this stuff, yesterday, it was purely people talking about it has Denuvo, and then the other people tell them to just shut the F up and sit down and enjoy and consume that you got Persona 4 Golden, which I hate it when people do that kind of stuff, because Denuvo is a legitimate concern for a lot of people. And, when it comes to DRM on something that, in my opinion, doesn't need DRM, it's a poor strategy on my end. While looking, of course, it turns out that this is actually a history, or Atlas has a history of doing this with any of their games that come into the PC sphere. They typically put Denuvo on it, some kind of DRM. And I didn't know that, because, to be honest, I don't think I really own anything on the PC that's not emulated anyway. From Atlas specifically, but they also have a habit of removing it after a few months, after they've made their cells and whatnot, or after it's been cracked, because the other part of it is to prevent it from being cracked, and then eventually somebody will crack it in about a month or two when they decide to take the time and do it, and then you'll find the PC variant out there on the high seas if you choose to do that. But at the same time, that is an option that you can do if you feel inclined to, but in my opinion, most people don't do that. If it's available to do so, they may do that, especially if they ain't got the money or whatever to properly purchase something, they may sell the high seas to attain that so they can get a chance to play it, or maybe they just never pay for anything. That's how they do everything. There are people like that out there. I used to be one of those people when it came to movies and TV and other stuff. Not gonna lie, I used to sell the high seas quite often, but I don't do that as much nowadays, especially when it comes to games, unless it's something really old that I just can't get a hold of for one reason or another, like the Mega Man stuff, or Legend of Zelda things, with the exception of Breath of the Wild. I just don't have the money to go out and put down $200-$300 for a Switch and pick up that game, because Nintendo refuses to give us PC ports. Which, by the way, Nintendo, PC ports, I would love it and I would pay for them. Every single one of them. But, there are some issues that are going on, and I keep rambling on random things. Anyway, but yeah, apparently Persona 4 Golden has had some lag in the cutscenes, and it has been attributed to Denuvo. This link will be down in the description below if you are attributing, or if you are actually getting some of those cutscene lags. But, other people, of course, aren't having this issue. Like I said, when it comes to Denuvo, sometimes it's hit or miss. Sometimes it's major where everybody's seeing it, and other times it's not everybody that's going to see it because of how small the issue may be. But yeah, this does here give you a small thing to fix it, which essentially is turning your power option to charge battery. I'm not 100% sure how that works or how that fixes anything, but it apparently has done things, and we're talking about PCs where, flipping the volume on or off could possibly mess up everything of your setup for whatever reason, because it feels like it, But, this will be linked down in the description below if you are having to deal with that. But, there are some other issues, of course, if you've got a firewall and stuff, where it won't let you play. And this comes into the realm of why have the DRM. I got the initial premise, right? We don't want somebody to crack our game and put it out there for people to pirate, because they're afraid everybody is going to suddenly pirate it, which just, factually is false, right? That this probably the strawest of straw men's is that if you put it up there and you don't put some kind of protection on it, everybody in the world is suddenly going to pirate it. No, they're not. Everybody, mostly, the fans who are going to want it to begin with, a lot of them are going to pay for it just to, contribute to the company and things like that. That, or maybe I'm just putting too much faith in humanity, which might be true. Anyway, but yeah, we've got a lot of people over here, talking about how Denuvo is bad, how Denuvo isn't, and this is the one that I do want to sort of take a look at real quick, slightly. But let me bring this up so I can actually see it. But are people really mad that a 12-year-old game is getting a PC release, and Sega/Atlas just want to get sales and not to have their game, which is not going to generate that many sales anyway because it's old and there's already a PS5 pirated 24/7? And that's where I was kind of getting at with that statement just a few minutes ago. People aren't going to pirate it 24/7. Want me to be brutally honest? I already have. I haven't gotten the PC port of the game, but I already own it. I own it on the Vita specifically, right? I have it, and if somebody needs me to show it to them, I can go dig it out of that closet and show you my Vita and Persona 4 Golden, which was the first game I got for the Vita. I already own that, and I own a copy for my PC that I use emulation with, and it runs just as good as my Vita. The game is already out there. It's not the PC port, but Persona 4 Golden is already out there and available for people to download and emulate right now. I can't show you how to do it or actually bring it up because and put it on the screen or anything, because I'm pretty sure that's against the TOS. But I did, right before I started recording, decide to Google for it, and within 2 minutes or less, I had the download again. And of course, be careful with it. It's about a 3 gig download, by the way, if you do decide to go looking for it. If you're looking for the English version, with English dubs I think with the English dubs and everything else, the English version is about roughly 3 gigs. So, keep an eye on that. File size is very important if you go to download something and it tells you it's like, 1,000 kilobytes versus, actually 3 gigs worth. There's a huge difference, and one of those is a virus. I'll let you figure out which one, I guess. But anyway, be happy with the fact that it even came out on PC. There was a time when I would bet my life savings that no Persona game would ever see a PC release. By the way, I can get every single one of them on the PC, except for maybe Royale. I don't think Royale actually has a version out just yet. But I'm 100% certain that 5 is already out there. Anyway, and my God, I was wrong. Blah, blah, blah. Eyes popped out of head seeing this thing on Steam yesterday. Denuvo or not, it's completely excusable for the first Persona game on PC, and potentially more to come. You want pirates to have it with people that throw a tantrum over Denuvo just pirating it and not giving any money to Atlas Sega? ? Jesus Christ, grow the hell up, dude. I don't know who you are, but seriously, this is an oof in my book. Again, people aren't going to go out and constantly pirate it. Chances are they've already got it and it's already been pirated. Is it the exact PC version that just came out? Absolutely not. But give it a month and it's going to happen. The fans are going to pay for the game regardless. Like myself, if I have a choice between buying it on Steam or pirating it, I'm going to buy it on Steam, more than likely, unless I just, for whatever reason, cannot afford it. And I have no other choice, but eventually I probably will go purchase it anyway. Like I got, Civilization 6 for free from Epic recently, but I personally kind of want the Steam port of it, so I'm going to eventually actually drop money and rebuy the game that I already got for free, because I like the Civilization, and I also prefer Steam, so, that's might be a me thing. But anyway, point is, there's a lot of things like this right here, and I really hate that in the community. You've got people who are slightly, cautious about the Denuvo portion, which is fine. It's fair to be cautious about that. For the most part, I haven't seen a big issue with Denuvo on this thing. However, again, I also want to put my, distaste in the fact that it is a single-player game. There's no reason for it to be there. Everyone's going to buy the game anyway, and yeah, I think this game will sell quite a bit from the fan base, regardless of whether or not it had Denuvo, or even if it didn't have Denuvo, it's still gonna sell a lot more than whatever this guy thinks it will, or girl, whoever. But, it's like, what was it? SimCity 5, when it came out and had DRM and had online only, and the player base was up in arms about that. That was a game that was primarily single player. Yes, it had a multiplayer component that they decided to slap in there, which was okay. But for the most part, people didn't want to be online to play it. And, just like with this, if I was to play the Steam version right now and my internet goes out, which frequently does when it storms because of where I live, if I'm in the middle of playing this game and it decides I can't play anymore or save or anything else because the DRM suddenly can't contact whatever it is trying to connect with, that's a big issue to me in just general at that point, and I'm going to be pretty ticked off about it, especially if I've got hours of progress because I wasn't following the golden rule to save every chance you get, and there are other people who will probably face issues like that. But anyway, when it comes down to it, Denuvo is a thing. It's on here. Is it causing a whole lot of issues so far? I haven't seen anything. Do I personally believe it needs to be on there? No, there was no reason for it to even exist on this game whatsoever. And if you want to hold off until they remove it, go for it. And if you want this game for free, guess what? It's already out there. Google it. You can get it for free already. You've been able to for years. So all this speak of, well, if they didn't have Denuvo on there, people would pirate it 24/7 is honestly a moot point to me at that point. It's already been done. It's out there. It's already happening. There was no point to having Denuvo at all. Is it having an issue with some people, though? Absolutely. Apparently there have been reports, and I did see it in the Reddit side, which I completely forgot to even go to and really go through and show all that stuff. But this video's been running long enough. I'll link everything down in the description below. But there have been issues where, you know, where did it go? I had to go find this because there have been reports of lag and issues during certain cutscenes, which probably does come straight from Denuvo because it's in the middle of trying to check the connection to make sure you're not a pirated copy, and while doing so, you know, it's causing some glitching and tearing during cutscenes, which is when, you know, in my opinion, is when DRM is done badly. A lot of the times when DRM is done correctly, it's checking a ton of times while you're, say, maybe looking through the menus and you've paused the game and stuff like that, when it's not going to drastically affect anything for you to actually notice that it's doing its thing. That's when DRM seems to always been used really great, is when times like that happen. When it's done badly, it's in the middle of checking during a cutscene or in the middle of battle, and that's when you start seeing things like lags and tears in the graphics and other stuff as a result. Anyway, I've rambled on long enough. I gotta go check on my coffee, and you can let me know what you think down in the comments below. See you in the next one. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment, smash that like button, and always subscribe for more. And of course, there are other videos floating around somewhere on the screen, so click one of those and see if you can find something that suits your fancy. Till then, I'll see you later. Bye.